Do you want to check it in a little while? Okay, so let's get in a comfortable seat. Let's do a little centering. So closing your eyes. Feeling heavy through your sit bones. Your spine is nice and tall. Your crown is reaching up. Your shoulders are relaxed. Just focus on your breath, watching your belly rise and fall. Picturing in front of you a being that you see as holy. If you have a teacher, then you should place your teacher there. If you don't have a teacher, place someone there who you look up to, who you feel you could learn from, who is someone you aspire to be like. It can be somebody who's currently in your life, or maybe a historical figure. See them not as a statue, but as sitting in front of you, breathing. You can feel the warmth of their body. You can see them breathe. You make them an offering. Give them something, anything. You can create a sky full of flowers. But it's really up to you. You can offer them anything. One of the highest offerings you could ever give a holy being is your practice. Then make a confession. Tell them something you did that you regret, you could have done differently. It doesn't have to be something big, it can be very small. Just tell them, and they're very happy to hear that you by confessing this. And telling them something that you did that was virtuous. Again, it can be something small, smiling at someone walking by or holding the door open, letting someone in traffic. It can be something bigger, something that maybe was hard for you to do. And then tell them something that someone else did that was great, and you rejoice in the efforts of this other person. Now ask them to stay. Ask them 3 times to stay in your life. Keep manifesting so they can help you. You ask 3 times if they can please keep teaching you. Now I'd like you to think for a moment about a time where you were feeling grumpy, annoyed, irritated. You tap into a sensation like that. Think of a memory that you have of the recent past where you were acting like that. And then can you recognize how this behavior, whether it was just in your mind or whether you acted on it towards other people, in any case, can you see how much it's steeped into self-cherishing? Can you see that the only reason why you are grumpy is because you want something? You either want something or you don't want something. You either want something You want something to be different. Ignorant aversion, ignorant desire. It's all steeped in me, 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 me. Can you now imagine yourself as a holy being? That is very much concerned about other people all the time. And they have no longer causes or conditions in place to be concerned about me, me, me. Can you imagine yourself as a being like this? Then it would be impossible to feel that grumpiness or being annoyed. Irritated. See yourself like that. And then to conclude this meditation, we just dedicate the virtue that we've just accumulated to our highest goals. You can dedicate it to becoming a Buddha so you can help everybody. You're no longer concerned about this me. And then you slowly come back. Alright, so today we're going to talk about. Hi, Carol. We're going to talk about the teacher, which is a very important topic and also one of my favorite topics ever. We're going to talk about what you should look for in a teacher. Before we go in that, let's just review a few things. Tell me something that you've learned in the last couple classes. What have we been talking about? You can just shout it out.
3 paths.
3 paths. What are those?
Renunciation, bodhicitta, worldview.
Correct worldview. Correct view. Yes. And what do those mean?
recognizing that this world will not make me happy, and I see vision. To bodhicitta, that dedication to everyone's enlightenment essentially is the root to happiness. Anyhow, and worldview is to understand emptiness and cause and effect.
Yeah, thank you. What else?
Personally, or more like with what?
You can go either way.
Well, wasn't, I heard you mention renunciation before, but the first 2 weeks the meditation was to meditate on it, and was, to reflect on it and to look at, the good things and going, yeah, you know what, I came back from retreat and there's some good things, obviously, but then to, even recognize those are not going to cause, happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming back and, I was really excited the first day to come back from the retreat,
Yeah.
counting down and then come back, and I remember that day I came home and then, I had tried to even like text the night before to book Susan, my wife, lunch together, and then we came back and then she's like, something was wrong with the washer and the dryer, and so then she had to run around and kind of, take off, and then I'm kind of like, okay, it's fine. And then my son comes back and he's in a bad mood. And then the other one, I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna go out. I bought these tickets to Science World on the day of my retreat to go see a dinosaur thing that he really liked. I really want to go. I remember, and it was just the worst so-called family day that I was coming back for. And, but yeah, no, this week you just was reflecting on all these good things, that there's so many good things supposedly, in my life, but just like, from karma, and then they're going to pass. It's, I heard it before, I heard you say it, but maybe having to meditate on it, I feel it more, like, this is,
I think that's really important. You can hear a lot of things in the class. And that's why these courses are so great. Because if you follow them and you indeed do the homeworks, and like Hogan is doing, and I confess I have not done all the meditations that are listed every week, but if I would have done them, wow, that's really powerful, because it makes you think about them, right? And you need to sit with it in order to have the realizations. Just coming to a class and listening for an hour or 2 a week, it's not going to do it. You're going to take it home, take it to your meditation practice, and think about it, And I think it's really great that you're doing that. So yeah, you can see how many beautiful things there are in our lives. They say that we're very lucky that we are humans, because we have so much goodness, but we have just enough suffering going on at the same time that is a motivator for us to do the work, And it's beautiful because, and of course some of our lives look better than others, but, I think it's really wonderful to reflect on how fortunate you are and how many beautiful things you have in your life. But also realize that none of it is permanent. It's always gonna go like this, and people around you are gonna get sick, gonna die, or gonna go through major mental problems. If not yourself. You know, we all eventually will get sick and die. So it's good to think about those things and understand that there's no happiness in going to Science World or in going for lunch with your wife, you know. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. You should absolutely do that. But know that when we can understand karma and emptiness and then do these things, we can come to a place where we can be truly happy, when it's no longer infused with all the self-cherishing that we just did in that meditation, you know, all the ignorance that where we're so concerned about ourselves. And when we can let go of that me, and start to understand how things are really working, it will shift things drastically in your life. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I think it's very important to reflect. And some topics might be more interesting for you to reflect on than others, you know. Some topics may resonate more. But it's good. It's good to sit with it. Let's see if this is working still. Does anybody remember the problems of the pot we talked about first class? Do you want to say that?
A closed pot, leaky pot, something else pot.
What's the other one?
Dirty pot.
Dirty pot.
Yeah.
Yes. And what does those mean? What's the
Closed pot, just not open to
who?
teachings. The student
The
isn't
student,
open to teachings.
Closed pot is when you are a student and you are not open to hearing what's being taught. Then what?
Dirty pot, you're going with the wrong motivation
Motivation.
class or to listen to the teachings. And leaky pot, just don't retain the teachings.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have the commitment.
Yeah. So a good way to retain is to do what Hogan is doing and to take it home and think about it, you know. And if you don't have time to meditate formally, the ideas that are mentioned in the homeworks to contemplate can be just on your bike ride to work or in the car, you know. I mean, ideally you would sit down and meditate, but it's okay if you don't. The whole idea is just to get these ideas kind of going in your mind and start to think about them, right? Start to make it part of your day. What else did we talk about?
10 virtues.
Yeah, we talked about the 10 virtues. We'll touch on those again today. Mahamudra, the Great Seal, means what?
Emptiness.
Seeing emptiness directly. And then we were talking about the bodies of a Buddha, right? Sorry? Rupakaya.
Something else kaya.
Dharmakaya. Yeah. What are those?
Rupakaya is the body of the Buddha. Dharmakaya is the mind of the Buddha.
Yes. So you can see them as parts of a being, right? And then we can divide those even further, but we'll do that in another course. And we had the causes for those bodies. So to get a Dharma Kaya, Dharma body, remember what the, yeah, wisdom, the collection of wisdom is the basis. And then for the other one, for the form body, actions, doing good actions, right? Collecting virtue.
And that's where this was good, because this week's, or last week's memorization was this dedication of the goodness of a deed.
Yeah, great.
And I kind of probably chanted it more the Tibetan way, and I've seen the words. Again, now they make sense because we just talked about how merit and wisdom create those two bodies, and just say it, but they didn't even know what it meant.
Yes. So the puzzle.
But,
I find all these 18 courses, just they're all like pieces of the puzzle, and slowly, like, oh yeah, there's another something that clicks, right? Something that's coming together. Yeah, and that dedication prayer is a great one to memorize, because you can, whenever you do something good, you can quickly say it in your mind. However, I do find the problem with prayer like that is that sometimes we can lose our intention behind it. You know, I think of growing up, and we always would pray. I grew up in a Christian family, pray for our meal, but the prayer was always the same, and it was really quick, 2 seconds. And I mean, I cannot speak for other people, but I know for myself, I certainly did not think about what we said. We just rattled it off. Can we start dinner? You know. So memorizing something like this is wonderful, and using it is wonderful. But then can you remind yourself, okay, what is exactly that I'm saying right now? You know, do I mean what I say? Otherwise, I don't think there's much point in doing it, right? This is why we're doing the prayers right now in English too, so we can remind ourselves what it is that we're saying. And even then, can we pay attention to this, what we're saying? Because otherwise, what's the point?
The dedication is at the end of class, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because it says, by the goodness of what I've just done, we just finished class.
We've accumulated, not some, like a lot.
Oh, a lot.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? It's because these ideas potentially can turn you into a Buddha. And that's like the biggest thing you could ever do. So, heck yeah, we're collecting some serious virtue here. Yeah. Buddha's in training.
So, prayers are like a renewal of intention, or a statement of intention, a reminder of intention. I'm just thinking, we could do them almost all the time. It's very helpful, because it renews that intent. That I'm thinking personally. That's what I can benefit from. Regarding anything, pretty well. Across the street.
Yeah. And I actually think that maybe what I said wasn't fully true, that when we say something and we don't fully mean it, can still be virtuous. But it would be way lesser. If you have an intention behind it. Anything you do, you are powering it up big time.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, about kind of like when it becomes on a road, you think, it becomes empty, but I don't know. Even doing that, remembering to do that, even that is powerful.
Yeah.
But a different level.
Yeah, it's a different level.
It's a bit
I
of
think,
mindfulness.
because part of your mind is remembering, okay, let's do this prayer. So there is some action going on, right? I'm thinking what comes to mind is, I love the Tibetan language, right? And what they do, apparently in Tibet, what my teacher told me, is that even the newspapers, they don't place them on the floor, because the language is created to create Buddhas, right? So even just a regular newspaper still has the language that is considered holy. So you don't put stuff on the floor. This is why we don't put binders on the floor, out of respect. And even though, yeah, no, it's totally fine. I should have said it before. But even with a newspaper, they don't do it, and I love it because, like yesterday, I had Hogan's homework, and I'm supposed to pass it to Lama John, and I was going to put it on top of the stairs, because I was just getting something from downstairs, and then I'm like, no, I didn't do it. Right? I didn't put it on the floor. And just that whole process that your mind is going through, I do think that there's benefit, because you're becoming more and more mindful. Anyways.
Marissa, can I maybe share one thing? Because I know you said there's new students, and
Yeah.
I really loved how Mariska, Chanji, Carol, when I first came to my first classes, there was no pressure to do homework. I just came to listen, and then I did. That's all I could do. I wasn't even sure I really, was going to like this. And then I think maybe after the second course of just listening, then I thought, well, might as well see what it's like. And then I shared with Carol, I said, and part of the homework has the memorization assignment, but they don't all do, actually.
No.
But that course did. And I remember finishing that course and then telling Carol, and we both kind of had a giggle. I said, our thoughts have so many, we think about so many things. But it certainly was nice in the week I did homework where I had to memorize a verse instead of thinking about other things, which it's so nice.
Yeah.
So actually, it kind of spurred me to, once I tried it, that the benefit of it, I felt, and I was like, so I'll do the next course because it'll have, give me something, to try to get my mind to focus on instead of where it normally may go and going.
Lots of distractions. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel you have to do the homeworks. I have mentioned that last class too, right? It's not for everyone, and it's fine if you don't. It's great to have you come here. I just think that if you can somehow, even if you don't do the homeworks or quizzes or readings, somehow bring something of the class back into your thoughts throughout the week, that would be great. I know many people that don't do the homeworks and quizzes, and it's totally fine. It's not for everyone. It's fine. But if you do it, I do see that there's benefits to it for sure. Okay. Last review question I have for you is that there were 2 obstacles to Buddhahood. Does anybody remember those?
I've got my notes right here, so it's not there.
Okay, anybody?
I remember one is the bad thoughts.
Yes, bad thoughts. Yeah.
The other one, right?
And one is the obstacles of knowledge. So you need wisdom regarding karma and emptiness.
Yes. Yeah, without that, you can't. You just can't.
Is it quite normal to really have a problem with emptiness? I mean, understanding the concept.
It is very normal. You need to hear these teachings thousands of times. And then it's so slippery. They say it's like a greased pig. You feel like you have it for a second and then it slips out of your hands again. Yeah. It's very, very tricky. It's very, very slippery. Yes. So do not worry. We're going to talk about it hundreds of times. All the way to the end. And this course is more of an overview. So there's different courses where you go more in depth about certain topics. There's one whole course dedicated to just emptiness, course 6. Yeah, tricky course. It's not an easy concept to understand. And what I think what's tricky about it is that it's a lack. It's not it's not something. And it's something that's not. And that makes it tricky to understand. So it's not like, yeah, it's like what this is not. That's emptiness. Right? So it's something that's not there. And that's hard because pretty much everything else is positive, and this is a negative. So that's part of why it's so hard to understand. So it's going to take a lot of virtue to understand it, and it's going to be needed to be repeated so many times. Good question. Yeah.
There's different schools that believe different things about it too.
You have landed in the highest school of Buddhism with most difficult to understand emptiness. So we have lower schools that perceive it differently. That's more easy to understand. Sometimes we have to go there to help us. There's 6 flavors of emptiness, and they go from low to high, and low is even high. But sometimes we just have to go to one of the flavors of emptiness that we can understand in order to have some understanding in that moment. So don't worry. Okay, so a teacher. Teacher is very, very important. It's one of the main things in Tibetan Buddhism, the main important things. You need a lama. We say lama Tibetan. It's Tibetan for teacher. Without a teacher, you will not make it to Buddhahood. You need somebody to help you, because it's like I always like the analogy of if you want to become a concert pianist, you can't just become that on your own. Most likely you cannot. You can have books and YouTube videos and this and that to get yourself started. But without a teacher and proper training, someone that knows exactly where you're at, what you should be working on in order to develop your skills, I don't think you can become a concert pianist. Just like any other skill, either musical instruments or whatever it is, any sports, or you need someone who has done it before you, who can show you the way. Because otherwise you get lost and you'll be able to play like the most common little tunes on the piano, but you'll never be able to play a complex piece if that's what you're after. Right? So same with trying to become a Buddha. How can we can only get so far with having books and scriptures and YouTube videos. Okay? We need somebody that we see in a certain light, that has done it before, that has gone through all the crap in order to be in a very blissful space, who understands what needs to be done, who understands what you need, who can see what you need, and who can help you. And then to find somebody like that, thinking of my husband right now. He's trying to find a new car. His car is just about done, and he's been looking for weeks for a new car. And he's gone to so many people's houses on Craigslist, that sell their place. He's gone to all these car lots. Yesterday he was in Richmond checking cars out. And it's a big process, right? So that's what we do. When we buy something, we check it out. Okay, so he's saying, well, that car, it looked nice on the picture, but when I saw it, it had too much rust on it. And this one had too many kilometers on it. This one, the tires were flat. Whatever it is, right? So he wants to find the perfect vehicle that will help him be a work vehicle and a family vehicle. So if we put so much time and effort into an object like that, we most certainly should put a lot of effort in trying to find a teacher, okay? And measure all these things, just like the car, okay? Because you should not go with the first nice teacher you see. You should check them out. You should make sure that what they teach is going to help you, It's very important to find a teacher that doesn't teach something that's not correct, because it can mess you up. If they teach you something that they say is virtuous, but it's not, you have a problem. It's going to result in possibly very bad things. I don't know. I can't say, maybe at best nothing would happen at all, but at worst, like, bad things could happen for lifetimes, So it's important to check out teacher first. There's this nice story about Lord Atisha, who was living in India, and he heard of this teacher in Indonesia. So he took a boat. I cannot tell you what year this was, but it was a long time ago. And he had to go, I think, on a boat for 6 months to get to Indonesia. And then when he got there, he didn't go straight to the teacher. He actually went to his students and interviewed his students. It's a very good thing to do, actually. If you see a teacher that you like, check out their students. What are they like? Can you see that they have benefited of studying with this teacher? If they've been with them for, when it's just fresh, maybe not so much, but if they've been like a disciple for a long time, that would be kind of a good measurement to see if this teacher is worth further checking out, right? So he went and checked out his students, and just kind of, I think it took him another 6 months before he even went up to his teacher, just checking them out. And then often you have these crazy stories too, that teachers will tell the students to not become their student for another 12 years, but just to follow them, and they can serve them, but they won't get their first teaching for another 12 years. 12 is kind of a special number. Lots of cycles go in 12. So I've heard those kind of stories too. So 12 years before you even get your first official teaching. But who's to say what you've learned in all those 12 years, So kind of all one big teaching too. Preliminary teachings. So it's a big deal to find someone that you want to follow, that you put your trust in to help you reach the highest goals. And there's all kinds of teachers. Many people follow the Dalai Lama. For instance, they see him as a teacher. well, I don't know how often they would have private audiences with him. So finding a teacher can look very different for different people, right? There's definitely teachers both in India and here that you would have a private audience with, meet them for an hour, and you can ask them, okay, what should I be doing? And they'll give you an assignment. So, okay, for the next few months, I'd like you to meditate on this or that, and then come back to me. Could look like that. It really depends on how open you are, how much you put into this. You know, how your mind. I see a lot of students that asked a lama to be their lama, but I think maybe they're scared and they just do it their way. Like they don't let them in too much. Okay, I'll just have my wall up, and once in a while I'll ask a little something here or there, but don't blow that wall up for me, please. I'm not ready for that. You know, there's students like that. Then there's students that have all their walls down and that are completely open. So it really depends on you, where you're at, what your karma is, how much you want it. You know, do you want a more comfortable samsara? Do you want to stay in the cycle, or do you really want out? Do you really want out of the cycle of samsara? Do you really want to become a Buddha? You know, how much do you want it? How much are you willing to surrender? How much are you willing? How much effort are you willing to put in? Or do you just want a more pleasant samsaric life, you know? We have all kinds of students that are all at different places, right? And a good teacher should just be there, no matter where you are at. And when the student's ready, they'll come to the teacher and ask for this or that, for some advice, and depending how open you are, how much you'll get, you know. When you have a good teacher that has had high realizations, just being near them, you don't even have to say anything. You can just sit by near them, and there's just a transmission going on, you know, behind the silence. So it's beautiful if you can be devoted to this teacher. The more devoted you are, the more they can help you. The more you open, the more you surrender, the more they can help you, the quicker your path. You know? If you want to stay comfortable and you put all your walls up, it won't go as quickly, right? It makes sense, right? So I think every student and teacher relationship is very unique. None of them will be the same. But I think you need to make clear to yourself what it is that you want. And then you can make that clear to your teacher too. And when you find someone that you think suits you traditionally you ask them 3 times to be your teacher. You make them a beautiful offering, and they can say no. They can say, ask me again in a year, ask me again in 2 years. You're not. I don't think you're ready, or I want to make sure that you're making the right choice, so ask me again later. They can say that. Maybe they won't. Maybe say, yeah, sure. It all depends on so many things. So we'll go over the list of what to look for, what kind of qualities you should look for in a teacher. We're first going to have a 5-minute break, and then we'll get on it.
Your kids too?
Mine are just
Yeah.
figure that they're all sealing.
Oh no, Mariska's are Mila's with Mariska's parents. Santosa's with
Okay.
a friend of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they
Yeah.
were together. The Prody Day, that's the.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do that.
Yeah, right?
My
Yeah.
parents are visiting from Holland.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, so they've taken my kids to the aquarium today.
Oh, they going to the aquarium today?
Yeah,
Great day for the aquarium.
Yeah.
it's probably very busy because I think everyone's having
Yeah.
a Prody Day. But they went right at 10, so.
Last week I was talking about the market.
Nice to see you.
Just taking his breath, just probably to go into the
Last week I remember he said, pretty exhausted.
Hi, Carol. We're all busy here with like what you do for your family. How are you? But I'm feeling good. You gonna dance? Very?
Did I hear you going to another birthday party?
Yeah. Tomorrow. Hi, guys. Hi, Carol. Who's going to a ceramics one tomorrow?
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Ceramics one. It's like, remember that ceramics place you went to and you painted like a cup or something, or you made a cup? Yeah, you do that at Demon Party. That's a nice idea.
Where's ceramics?
West ceramics, way out in Langley. Sister's gonna take
Class
you.
in Buddhism.
It's
Why?
gonna be sister time.
So he came
Why?
over.
Where are you gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some
He
you
was
time.
And you know anywhere?
I am.
So I guess, yeah,
I'm
that
gonna go
makes sense. I
on
know.
spiritual
They
walk.
used to teach at Broadway. They had their center. Now some of the teachers teach on their own. You find a lot of other classes. You know, there's a lot of other centers.
Different classes.
That where they, because I did see other meditation centers.
That's so good. Yeah.
So have you been to other
And
courses?
I think that
I'm still with that
First one I
one.
had been at as a my mom had meditation before, but
I know
her teacher in Toronto.
One?
Thank you for asking. Anyway, with the, oh, yeah. I did. One of my friends who's a nurse was there. And she said it was
Oh, I told you we're working that first, but then
It was very funny. She said he has a great sense of humor. She's also British. So she said, yeah. And, I think more than anything, I think it allowed the women to have a voice, to have their stories heard. So not only to them, but I think to the greater public, right?
Yeah.
you know it's interesting that all of this.
So, yeah, definitely I can see how if I took a break, I can understand that.
And they went, I know. Well, I think it's telling the women, wow, you guys are special. You're special. So,
Yeah, the empty one.
Yeah.
That one, you know, obviously it's
they also went to ISS. When we do,
so,
and they're going to some First Nations
but
communities. There seems to be a First Nations component.
Yeah.
it's nice. I was looking forward to number one because there's some things I
They've
did
been treated so poorly.
certain things. I thought, well, I'll just learn and do it. It's
They were
16.
treated sadly.
There's 15 and 3 review courses, like 16 and reviews of
Yeah.
It's just beautifully, it seems to be here, architecture, you know.
And sometimes
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it was, I don't know if it is, I don't think it was our training.
I guess can I do prayers on that?
No, I don't think it was training. I don't know. Maybe it was there, maybe it was there.
Emptiness is crazy.
Was there definitely was kind of First Nations?
Even though it's a lot,
Maybe it came from the,
That's great influence, right? There's really powerful.
yeah,
movie is based on my
maybe it came.
Yeah.
experience.
Alright, let's resume.
Who's that rock band? The rock band. The singer is dying.
Oh, the Downey,
Yeah, maybe it came from them.
Can I take an ice cream? That. Love you.
Ice cream.
Did you take an ice cream? We'll talk later. Not too small.
She listens, which is good to the teacher.
She's lucky. She's got good karma to be here.
She wants to be. She wants to be here. She was upset last week because I didn't bring her for the prayers.
Well,
Wow.
Last week or the week before? The week she was sick. Was it the week before?
last week she was here.
Yes.
okay, so I think maybe I should also mention that when you find your teacher and you are really going for it, that can be pretty tough because this teacher is going to help you uproot all of your yucky stuff. And if you're anything like me, there's a lot of it that maybe you weren't aware of. Because all of it has to go. Remember the 2 obstacles to becoming a Buddha, one of them is your mental affliction. So all of them have to go. And if you have a good teacher, if you are surrendering to this teacher, they will know exactly what it is to say to you in a moment to just burst another big explosion of some kind. That's how you purify. You have to. I'm not saying this to scare you. It's beautiful and it's worth every second of pain, but you have to uproot it because how can you ever become truly happy if you haven't dealt with all of your shit, right? You have to. Yeah.
Does a Buddha have thoughts?
Thoughts? Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's very difficult to understand how a Buddha thinks or sees if you're not a Buddha yourself. But we'll talk about that more over these courses. So the first quality that we can look for is, let's see, tamed morality. So we have spoken about morality last week, right? Doing good deeds, doing those virtues, right? They are also mentioned in like Christianity, right? You shouldn't lie, you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal. Just all of these kinds of things. Don't talk badly about other people. Don't sleep with your friend's wife. Whatever. All of these 10 things we discussed last week. So you want a teacher who is living a moral life, right? Because if they are not moral, if they haven't tamed themselves, how are they going to tame you? So that's the first one. And these first three are also part of the 3 trainings, which I think we discussed in another course. The second one is having concentration, mindfulness and concentration, to keep your mind on doing good things, being mindful and having that concentrative awareness to keep on what's important, to keep the morality. And then the third one is the training of wisdom, where you use that concentration and direct it to investigate reality, how reality works, right? Understanding emptiness, karma and emptiness. So this is not talking about really having realized emptiness, but it's more talking about the concentration aiming at emptiness. There's a small little blurb in here. Say, how do you know if someone has seen emptiness? And we haven't talked much about that, but one of the main goals here is to reach emptiness, to see emptiness directly in meditation, because when you do so, then you will be on your way out for sure. And when you have seen emptiness directly, you have no doubt in your mind anymore. No matter what anybody tells you, you know what you saw, and you understand how reality works. And something's just completely different in you from that moment on. So how do you know if someone has seen it? How do you know your teacher has seen it? You can ask them. Most likely they will not answer you because it's some kind of experience that most people will keep close to their chest. Because for one, you cannot prove it that you've seen it. You can say, yeah, I've seen it, but there's nothing to show, right? So that's one of the reasons. Other reasons, it's good to keep your spiritual practice, your progress, kind of to yourself. So it doesn't lose its power. Not that it would, if you've come that far, but it's good to keep things to yourself, Once you've said it, then who knows? Who knows what might happen, People use it in ways that you may have rather not, where you think it's not helpful for people to know or something, right? So it's good to keep it close to your chest. As a student, it's good to assume that your teacher has seen emptiness directly, as a student, it's good to try to see your teacher as a Buddha, as a fully realized being, because it will power your whole practice up. You know? And it will be hard. Some days you just see them as a regular Joe, and then other days you can see them really high. The more you see them as really high, you can first pretend, and then maybe at some point you will actually see them like that. Maybe you do see them like that from the beginning. Who knows? It really depends on what you have, what kind of seeds you have, what kind of karma you have going on. And it will change day to day. But if you can see them as really high, it says something about yourself too, right? You cannot see anybody as really high if you are not a certain type of person. So if you can see beauty and wisdom in other people, that's a reflection of your own mind, right? So it's beautiful if you can at least pretend until you can see it. Yeah.
I have a question. In other traditions besides Buddhism, there are enlightened beings. So someone like Jesus and other
Yeah.
beings like him would have seen emptiness directly.
Mm-hmm.
There's the similarities, like the karma piece. Jesus might talk about, the Bible may talk about in other ways, but there's never been a mention to emptiness in a couple of traditions that I've studied. Now, why is that? Why is it Buddhism alone is talking about emptiness, whereas karma seems to be widespread?
Yeah, it's kind of a specialty of Buddhism. It's not really true what you're saying. They might word it differently,
Yeah.
There's definitely people I know in the Christian tradition, like Saint John of the Cross. I don't know if you ever heard of him. In his book, there's definitely his biography. It describes seeing emptiness directly for himself, the whole experience right there. Okay, maybe he uses different words, but yes. So I agree. It's not something that when I go to church on Sunday that I hear the pastor talk about. It doesn't mean that there are Christian practitioners who go that far in their journey that they will have.
So they probably use different words like rapture.
You also see it in traditional Aboriginal communities.
Yeah.
And with their ceremonies.
Yeah, I think they have a different packaging. I do think that
What would they say?
highly realized beings will have seen it.
Like ascension, you hear about ascension.
United with the Creator.
Yeah, united with God is something that you hear.
So that's on par with emptiness? Is that another
It
way
could
of
be.
expressing
It could be.
It could be.
Could be. Yeah. Let's keep going here. So the fourth one is to say the teacher should have scriptural knowledge. They should know what it is that they're teaching you, where it came from. They should have an idea of scriptures and use the scriptures. It's not enough to just have mental qualities. The teacher knows the books. Because the books, these courses, they were all written by realized beings, right? So it's important to not only go with what the Lama thinks, but also to have the Lama's thinking steeped in scripture. So then the fifth one is a teacher should have a very high understanding of emptiness. and it would be best if they have seen emptiness. But if they haven't seen it, they can have just a high intellectual knowledge of it, which can be very helpful to get you going. Ideally, they would have seen emptiness, but again, how do we know? How do we know? You might meet a teacher and you might suspect they haven't seen emptiness, and as you follow them and go along, all of a sudden your view starts to shift, and then you start to see them as someone who has perceived it. That's very possible. So either seen it or understanding it very clearly. Important. Okay. Then the teacher should have exceeding good qualities in excess of the students. Okay? That's important. I can go back to the example of the pianist, right? I cannot learn to become a concert pianist if I study with my neighbor kid, I need to study with someone who has gone through, who's farther than me, who can pull me up. Okay. So it's important that this teacher has exceeding qualities than the student. And they know, number 7, the right order of teaching. So they know what the student's capacity, where the student is at. They know what to teach them, what to have them practice. They know which order to go for a student.
What was number 7?
7 was knowing the right order of teaching. So they understand where the student is at. Next one, the teacher teaches out of love and compassion, and not because they want to gain fame or money or respect of others. They teach because they love. And that, one of the reasons why these classes they don't cost anything, they're by donation, is because how do you put a price on teachings that potentially create enlightened beings? Cannot. It's not worth. We cannot ever give enough to repay. It just. So the teacher doesn't teach because they want to get paid. They don't. They teach because they want other people to become happy. They want to see their students free from suffering. And they don't care if they have 1 student or 50, if they travel and teach all over and be like this famous person. They should not care. They should not care. They should just teach because out of love. And then, this is not in the class, but as far as donations go, personally, I think it's good karma for the student to offer something, right? Hogan and I were at this talk this week, and this man, a very beautiful man, has created karma teachers, and all of it is free. All of the yoga classes that he offers from his studio are free. And he was really strongly, he said it a few times, you guys should not charge, right? You should offer at least 1 class a week or a day for free. And I'm not sure if I fully agree with that. I do think it's beautiful, and he was beautiful, and what he's doing is obviously working for him, and I wouldn't say anything against that. And many people that don't have money, amazing. But for the people that do have money, I think personally that it's good karma for you to give something, especially something that you deem is important. Because if you don't, and you do have the money, I don't know.
I know that there's some karma classes where you bring a can of food for the food bank.
Right.
And that's interesting because you're still giving something. And
Yeah.
if you think about it,
Yeah.
like beyond it just being a can, you're spreading good thoughts as well.
Yes, and you are going in your cupboard, finding something. So there's a mental process there, which forces you to think about giving, to think about other people. So that's beautiful. I like that. I like that. And I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say is I think that's really good for us to give when we can. And it doesn't have to be money, actually. It can be food, it can be your time, it can be something. But if you just always just think everything just comes to you for free and you are not putting any causes in place to keep it going, then it will end. At some point, you will no longer have the virtue to receive beautiful, whatever it is, or receive anything that you need, as a matter of fact. So I do think this guy was amazing because he's helping all these homeless people and addicted people, gang members, and he's bringing them all and teaching them yoga for free. I mean, like, wow, that's amazing. But then he also teaches classes that are accessible for everyone, of people that, might not give anything, even though they definitely could. And I'm thinking, how does he even pay his rent if he doesn't? I don't really understand how that works. But in any case, I feel it's good. It's good to have that mental process of giving, and especially for teachings that are benefiting you, whether it be yoga or dharma or your piano class, that can be also a spiritual practice. Any of your hobbies, it can be very beautiful too. So I think it's good practice. Anyways, so we're almost there. So the teacher, 2 more, has a very deep-rooted joy in helping other people. So they are teaching because they love to teach. And they love to help other people. And through being there, through teaching, it gives them great joy. Last one is that they never tire of teaching the same thing. And that's important because really Buddhism doesn't have that many ideas. It really comes down to a few. So if you cannot repeat yourself many, many times, then you will not qualify for being a good teacher, because students will come to you and they will have their troubles that you help them with, and then they'll come again, and the story
It's boring.
It's just the same thing, but in a different story. But it's always the same. So the teacher is patient and just listens and helps and doesn't get tired of again and again telling them about karma and emptiness, how they should apply it to this situation, and then the student is content for a couple of days, and then it starts again, right? So, yeah. So then Jason Kappa says, I believe it's all of these Jason Kappa says that it'll be very almost impossible to find a teacher with all of these qualities. So if you cannot find someone with all of these qualities, then just go for the first 3. Those are important. So someone with a deep sense of morality, being a good person, being kind, right? Having wisdom, applying this meditative, concentrative mindset to the things they do. Focus it on emptiness. So at least those 3, if you can't find them all 10. But then I want to say too, is when you try to find this teacher, just listen to your heart. Your heart will be pulled to somebody, right? And just listen to that. And then, yeah, check them out. Check them out. Check their students out. Follow them around for a while. And then if you feel ready, you can ask them. And again, like, what is it that you want? I hope you don't mind Hogan, but Hogan was saying that he'd like someone that has kids, right? And I was thinking about that because you feel that they would relate to you better, right? I think that when you find your perfect teacher, doesn't matter whether they do or they don't, because they're there to get you out of samsara, and they're not there to help you have a better, I don't know, more success with your worldly things, They're there to get you all the way out, and they will be loving and compassionate, and will give you exactly what you need. It didn't have that on the list of 10, If you have kids, you should find a teacher that has children. If you don't have kids, then, yeah, maybe your perfect teacher does have kids. Who knows? But don't make that the do or die. Go with what you learned here. That would be my recommendation. And your teacher will be exactly perfect for you. Any questions?
So where do you find a teacher?
Where do you find one? Yes. That's a good question. I think you should first say you walk around and there's just nobody that you would consider to be someone that could be your teacher. And then you have to create the causes for it. So first have that wish in your heart that you want to find a teacher. And one of the good things you could do is creating causes through wishing other people that they find their perfect teacher. Matching people together. I don't know, say, my friend says, I really want to learn to play piano. I don't really know where I can find a teacher. You say, don't worry. I'll do some research for you. And you try to find someone that, whether you succeed or not, that's not the point. But you can try to create causes to connect people and dedicate that virtue to finding your own perfect teacher. You can do stuff like that. And then one day, they're just there in front of you. You don't have to go to India to try to find somebody, I mean, you could. Maybe you will succeed, but maybe they'll just live just around the corner from your home, You can go visit other sanghas, Buddhist places where maybe the teacher really resonates with you. But if you don't have the causes in place, then they won't pop up. So you have to make sure that that's something that you want to do, create that wish, and then in your mind you can just offer people their perfect teachers all the time, and that should create the causes.
Just had a funny thought. You can't Google them. They won't show up.
One thing you can't control.
Oh, they might.
You might.
They might.
Yeah, if everything's perfect, you might. You
Yeah.
know. For me, it was I walked into a yoga class many years ago, and the person who was teaching yoga, I just instantly felt like, wow, I want to be like you. What is it that you do? And I didn't know anything that he was teaching Buddhism or anything. I didn't know anything about Buddhism. I just came to do yoga. So you never know, right? And sometimes it goes like that for people, and other times people need to do a big search. Like, it's different for everybody. Yeah. But it is important. It's worthy of your time to try to find that person for you. It is like one of the most important things you can do. Yeah.
So into that, do the monks at a very young age have a lama right away?
Well, how it works there is that whatever town you're in, that's the monastery you go to, and whoever leads the monastery
That's
or
right.
is the mentor of these kids, that's your lama. Yeah, that's how it goes for them. But you hear stories. Then a visiting lama comes to town, and then certain people have this close connection with them, and then maybe they'll move on with this teacher, or not. But they keep this teacher high in their mind and make the offerings in their meditations to this teacher, having devotion for this teacher. It can definitely go like that. Yeah.
It kind of makes sense in the Three Jewels that the people who are teaching are teachers for other students. They're kind of like this is the sangha for Vancouver area. Teachers in the Three Jewels are lamas for a lot of students. Is that true?
I'm not sure if I understand.
Well, the fact that Three Jewels, is teaching this, the students who have
Oh,
who
okay.
are now
I
teachers
see.
are potential teachers.
Yes, 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 it's true. Because this is a teacher training. Whether you'll become a teacher or not, it doesn't matter. Just like taking a open door yoga teacher training, many students don't end up teaching, but the whole personal journey is worth it, whether you'll become a teacher or not. It doesn't matter. So yeah, Three Jewels Center has been creating teachers, but they're all been taught. It's a whole lineage
Yeah.
that
Well, I just thought if Val was saying, where do you find a teacher? I guess there are teachers in the Three Jewels community.
Yes.
Teachers.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely teachers within the Three Jewels. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. And yeah, it's just a matter of seeing which one pulls your heart. Yeah, and then just check out their classes and don't rush it. Check these qualities, see if there's at least 3 they have. But I think mainly it's like what your heart will feel like.
But for Three Jewels in Vancouver, who started it or who?
Lama Yvonne started. Lama Roger, I think they started it.
Started.
And there's Three Jewels in different cities, so there's different teachers at each center. Yeah, so your teacher doesn't have to be in the same town. Some amazing teachers in the States too, and if you can go visit them once in a while and get a hit, and then go back home and practice, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it would be amazing if you can find someone who's very close to you that you can see all the time. But if nobody does that for you, then that's fine. Then there's other places.
Yeah, doesn't say here in the qualities that they live close.
No, I think that's
But that they're
some of us are really spoiled having teachers so nearby, because I think most people in the world, they don't. They don't. Doesn't mean, I don't think it means that one is better than the other. If you have a lot of devotion, amazing things can happen for you, amazing realizations can happen for you. That said, being close to a lama can be intense. You know, the heat of the lama, being near them, can really trigger a lot of things. And when your lama's far away, maybe it's a little bit easier. Depending, it doesn't have to be like that, but it definitely could be. It really depends on the person.
But Marissa, with from what I've understood is that these learnings then lead to the tantric learnings, which are the secret learnings that you have to kind of communicate or be with the right?
Yeah.
So maybe at this lower level, it's okay to not be in the distance.
Maybe. Again, it just really depends on the person and what it is, how badly you want out. It's totally fine to study all of this without having a teacher at all, or having a teacher on the other side of the planet. But ideally, you find one. The ideal.
Because I know you had sent me a link to one, but he's not in around here, right?
Who did I send you?
Shambhala.
I don't remember this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, you sent me a link to one.
To a teacher?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. All right, let's close it up. We'll wait for Serene. Here's the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha, not for all eternity. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure love. Idam Guru Ratnam. And then we go to the dedication. So you can keep your hands in prayer by your heart. By the goodness of what I have just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit